reason why this topic is so important and needs to be spoken about and brought to light is when you have people who are unsafe to express their emotions at home, and then they go to church where they hear that they have to follow rules in order to get into heaven, in order to be accepted by God. You need to realize that these people are not seeing God through the lens of love. They're seeing God through the lens of trauma. What do we want? We want to belong. We want to accept. We want to be accepted so bad that, yeah, okay, I'll take those conditions. I'll keep hurting myself. As a child, you don't know how to speak up. Welcome to episode number 2. I'm so excited to be with you. I'm Sarah Evangeline. On this show, we talk all things your body, your emotions, and God, connecting you back to your body, back to your spiritual essence, and who you are. You're here to live your life to the fullest, not mine, not someone else's, not to make someone else comfortable. So let's get into the unfiltered truth. Let's go. So the question remains, the question remains, would you have unworthiness, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, waking up like you're not good enough, if church did not teach you a conditional way to God? That is a question that I want you to ask yourself, because anything that is taught to you with conditional ways and conditional rules in order to be accepted by God is not of God. I think back to my days, and if I actually went to the altar to confess and be myself towards God, like, they would do an altar call, I'd be screaming bloody murder for what happened to me. And the church would not have known what to do. There is so much hate and judgment going on inside the four walls of churches. There's so much hate and judgment and concern about following a list of rules instead of asking, are you actually okay? Are you actually okay? And when you make hate and judgment more important than whether or not someone's emotions are held in safety, we are birthing people who become codependent, people who fall for manipulation in relationships, people who fall for narcissistic behavior, people who become narcissistics. Yes, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I speak up again for the version of me who needed this, and also for the multiple clients that come to me because they are so confused about who they are, because I want you to hear me when I say this. When you are taught that hate and judgment and denying your needs are more important than an unconditional love so that you can be accepted by God, you are falling for a manipulated, distorted version of God. And what that does to a child, when a child is hearing this message over and over again every Sunday, they actually start to view themselves with a distorted lens, like something is wrong with me. I'm a bad person. I don't belong. That is what it translates to. That is the heart of the damage that is being done. When you are taught a conditional version of love, when you are taught that when you are taught to fear hell over and over and over again, and you have to do things in order to get into heaven, we are having an identity crisis because children are hearing that message, but it translates to, I'm not enough. And so this brings me full circle into what I'm here to talk to you about today, which is how religion can give you a distorted view of your body. And this is not just for women, this is for men as well. I taught a beautiful course a couple months ago in August and September. It was called Goodbye Good Girls. And I actually had an outpour of messages. My cat is right there. Messages from men thanking me for speaking up about it. And it really gave me a wider perspective that men really need a place. So, just kudos to you wherever you are in this journey. And if you are confused, it's not your fault. And I hope that you gain some clarity today in this message. So, let's break this down. Okay, this is psychology. This is psychology. This is not just me, oh, I've got to rant about my problems here. No, I share my story because I needed someone to tell me when I was younger, Sarah, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you that you're confused. It's safe to speak up. It took me almost 25 years of my life before someone said, Sarah, it's okay. This is not right. And I will be that voice for people. But I want you to know that I have spent the last 7 years intentionally healing from religious trauma. And I've also have clients who come to me and I help them heal from religious trauma. And I've also been studying the emotional effects, the emotional damage that happens to the nervous system level of children when they are taught these things. And if anyone's watching this where they're a leader in the church, I want to call you to a higher service. I want to call you out because you're there for a reason. And I don't want you, because I know so many of you have good intentions. I had good intentions, but there is something so key here that we need to look at so we can do better, so that we can create safety for children, so that they can grow up and see themselves through the way that God wants them to see them, not through the way of manipulation and trauma and pain. But it requires you to be humbled enough to go, wow, I don't have all the answers. This journey is not about having all the answers. This journey is about connecting back to your body. And if you were ever given the impression or the message that you have to deny yourself because your heart is deceitful, it was never about denying yourself. It's actually about accepting yourself and meeting yourself. When we accept and meet ourselves, that's that's what people need. When church goes on and on and on about being saved, what people really need is to know how to meet their pain. And so many people are bypassing their own emotional needs because it's been normalized and they're seeking restoration through just people pleasing and judging another person. Oh, that person did that. So I'm okay. I've got restoration inside me because I've called that person out. And so today, I want you to know that you are safe to relearn this so that you can see yourself through the lens of unconditional love. You can start to see the world through unconditional love. So for me, when I started this journey, actually went to pastor school and I dropped out. I still have one of the course books that helped me. It's so funny. We were having to do all these different courses, and there was one course, it was on spiritual discipline that I just dove into. I loved it. It helped wake me up to the truth of who I am. I was having these encounters in my condo, and I don't think anyone was expecting that. I don't think anyone was expecting to actually break out of the mold that was being taught to me that I have to fit in. Um, and so I started having, as a child, you have these glimmers of these encounters, but I don't know if you'd want to call them encounters, but as I dove into this book, I actually became more and more foundational in my truth, in my inner knowing. So I dropped out of pastor school and um, just wanted to get to know this part of me more and more and more that was actually connected to God that church had never really taught me about. And this is the thing though, is if we were not taught to deny our bodies, if we were actually taught to meet our bodies, we would have an amazing world. But some people are afraid of their emotions and don't want you to stand in the power that you have with God. They want you stuck in the suffering. And, so much of even with good intentions, what pastors don't realize what they're doing is when they emphasize hell and suffering every single Sunday, they are actually conditioning their congregation to stay stuck and to stay in suppression. And that's not the abundant life that you're promised, and you can have that now. So, if you have been following along, you know parts of my story and my journey of the trauma that I had as a child and the things that I witnessed, and I did not have emotional safety for my needs to be met. Um, and so you get you get used to living in survival. And I'll give you an example. If something happened to you, like a crisis happened to you in childhood, maybe mom died at a young age, or there was the threat that mom could possibly die. That was a crisis for you as a child. And so maybe what you did was at that young age, you learned that in order to not be abandoned, you have to handle the crisis. You have to fix the crisis. And that becomes your normal. And your body goes into this state of fight or flight. Um, and that is how you learn to live. Your body actually doesn't know how to move out of completion. Na 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 na. Just so you know, inside the Soul Talk method, I teach your body to come into completion and get out of the trauma patterns. Just a side note, you can find out more information below. But for now, if you had anything like that, and honestly, I've had a client once where she had pretty good home, but she witnessed someone else. She was just at a football game or something, and somebody else had a panic attack. And so what did she develop within her? She developed the huge fear, would that happen to me? And she lived in that trauma within her body. Guys, it can be that simple. Don't underestimate the pain and the chaos that's going inside. Address it so you can get out of this cycle that I know you want to break. Another example is if you had a parent who abused you sexually, but then they brought you to church and told you that God is your savior, God is your father. That's another entanglement where that person is never going to feel safe with God. These are just two examples of how when a church is not trauma informed and they are more concerned about you following the rules correctly, you are actually adding more damage and more trauma to these kids, to these adults. All they need, all they desire, what they're craving is just to be accepted. So they go to your church to be accepted, but then they have to do more things that give them a conditional form of love. They will do it because they've been so used to that being their normal. So, main point here is that something happened, whether it was once or every day, that put you into a state of survival. You are living from a place of chaos and inner turmoil where you don't know how to cultivate safety within. Religion made me hate my body. Trauma made me hate my body. I was so disconnected from myself, but then when I received those messages from church, I only wanted to disconnect from myself more because I feared myself. I feared being wrong so much that in order to control, you see, when you're in that much pain and you're just looking to be accepted, you will try to control something. So here I am as a teenager. I don't know how to speak up. I don't know how to ask for help. Falling for this conditional form of God that wasn't really God, it was a man-made version of fear. I just wanted control. Control was an outlet for me to feel safe, but control, what I know now is control is an illusion to being safe. True safety is when you can know to drop the control and become connected back to your body, which is what I teach inside the Soul Talk method. A way that I controlled was hating my body, shaming myself, judging myself even more than what church did. So I take full responsibility now and I've changed my life. You can too. You have the power to no longer struggle. You have the power to burn the four walls down of religion that you were told to stay stuck in. So basically, what I would do is I would starve myself, and the lower that the scale was, the more control I had. Everything was out of control. I, I would show up and, um, I would show up and everyone seemed to like me, but I didn't know how to like myself. And while this was going on, my whole body was just full of anxiety. But the lower the scale got, the more acceptance I thought I would receive. I remember even going to camp one year through this church, and I was so skinny that people thought I was going to break. I think I lost something like 30 pounds within 1 month, and no one asked if I was okay. And that's what I really want to change here is the ability for you to trust your instincts when you sense that something is off, when you sense something is not okay. Let's bridge the gap and ask people, are you okay? Do you need safety? I want success to be, for me, somebody was safe in my presence. Somebody could be themselves in my presence. That's what success is. When a client or potential client comes to me and they say, Sarah, you gave me the safety I've never received, that's my paycheck right there. Because people are killing themselves, whether it's an eating disorder or something else, because they need to control. It even looked so good on the outside, right? Like people thought I was disciplined. I was like called, it was like I was praised for being disciplined. I would eat healthy, I would exercise, but what you don't realize is that what I was actually doing is I was trying so hard to control that this discipline became an obsession for me to find some sort of validation. And so I'm giving you the short-term version, but can you imagine being alone with yourself, feeling so worthless, feeling like you're doing everything that church is telling you to do, but you feel so disconnected from your body that you will starve yourself in order to get just a little bit of validation. That was my life from I would say grade 9 or 10 until my first or second year of university. When I started to heal my body in the sense of when I started to give space for my emotions to be safe, that is when my eating disorder stopped. Emotional safety is so important. Emotional safety needs to be the foundation, the priority, and the focus of churches. You have the ability, you have the ability to live a life where you are connected to God, co-creating, trusting your intuition, trusting your body. Trusting your body is what leads you to live a life where you see God in a way that church may have stripped from you. I know that I can go out to nature and I can feel the presence of God within myself and all around me that nobody else can teach me. You get to have a life where when you trust your body, you're able to connect with the source of life that created this world. Do you know how powerful that is? There's no room for the suffering to be the rest of your life. Yes, you have had pain where you need it to be felt and you need to process it and have a safe place. And also know that this suffering was never supposed to be your whole life on this planet. I want you to move beyond the pain and experience the beauty that God has for us every single day. I say this illustration. Before I started this work and connecting back to my body, it's like I saw the world through a lens of this black and white. It's like I have all these windows here. My sunroom is just right there. Okay, so just imagine I see no color. It's just, it's all black and white, and there's cracks, and it's dark. And I've broken that all down. I've pushed past that where now all I see is beauty and color and music. I wake up and I expect miracles. I wake up and I want to be a miracle to someone, but there's no manipulation attached to it. If you did not have emotional safety, if you could not speak up at church, you most likely have something to heal here. And that's okay. That's okay. You have always been connected, but you have been taught how to live as if you're disconnected. And I want you to rebuild love from the ground up. I hope that this was helpful for your journey. Share in the comments below what you received from this, what's going on. And just know that this is not the end of the story. The way to restoration is for you to meet your emotions. Your emotions are not bad. There's nothing wrong with you, but something happened to you. And it's time to come into completion so that your body can have peace and have ease, so that you can wake up fulfilled instead of the dread of I'm not enough. I'll talk to you soon.